Let's start with a gut punch. Even if you homeschool, even if your family walks in faith every week, your child's worldview is still being shaped by a system that is not broken, but is working exactly as it was intended. It was designed very much on purpose to fracture faith, reward compliance, and replace your voice with theirs. This was not accidental, it was engineered, and it is not going to stop. Today, we're going to discuss and learn how we got here, what the underlying agendas are, so we can gain understanding to do something about it. This is the Family Readiness Project, episode 5. Welcome and thank you for being here. Let's jump right in. Statistics. Statistics are kind of rough sometimes. Moms and dads, did you know, some of you do, some of you might not, between 64% and 80%, depending on what studies you look at, kids that are raised in church and in a family that proclaims faith abandon their faith completely after they leave home. These are moms and dads who, I don't want to burst bubbles or hurt a feeling, but these are parents who sometimes think they're doing everything right. They've got them in the good schools. Some of them even homeschool. They think that their rules, schedules, and specific curriculum is going to save everything. What I'm trying to get you to understand and give you some background about, that this runs deeper than just surface level things of what we do. It's about worldview formation of your children, okay? All right, how did we get here? Our modern education system within the United States was purposefully based on a system called the Prussian model of education. And the cheerleader and main driver of this was an individual by the name of Horace Mann. There were others. He had help. He was not alone in this, but Horace Mann was we can look back in history and if we can point to a single individual that spearheaded this on purpose, it's Horace Mann. So who is this Horace Mann? Horace Mann was born in Massachusetts just after our American Revolutionary War, and he lived during the rise of industrialization and the early American building of the state. By profession, he was a lawyer, he was an educator, he was a politician. That's an interesting mix, wouldn't you say? Lawyer, educator, and politician, all wrapped into one. Weird. He became the first secretary of the Massachusetts Board of Education in 1837. This was not in the 1930s, 40s, or 50s, mom and dads. This was in the mid-1800s. That's how far back this goes in our history. He is often credited by the school system, and I heard this my entire life growing up, as the father of American public education, lauded in this, pinnacle of just influence and goodness. But was he? This is a title that's often been repeated in textbooks without much questioning or looking at who the man was who we give this title so freely and eagerly to. Because here's who Horace Mann was. He believed in the state far more than the parents or the church. As a matter of fact, he made it his entire life's mission and journey to change the authority that directly influences your and my children. He saw education as the path to creating a moral, highly obedient, and industrious society. He often argued that a common standardized school system would equalize the conditions for all men, a virtuous thing, correct? He strongly opposed sectarian religious instruction in schools, because prior to instituting compulsory education, all small townships and families, I say all, that's a broad term, I know, but hear me out. Almost all people educating our children combined faith along with the education of a child. And there was a specific system that they practiced. We'll get to that at some point. Okay. He championed a non-sectarian moral code based not on faith, but on what society seemed good, effectively removing biblical grounding in Christian worldview formation from all education, because that's what it was prior to his instituting compulsory education in the American system. Flipping paper. He laid this groundwork for a faith-void public education and was very successful in doing it. Mann was deeply influenced by the Prussian model of education, which he saw on a tour of Europe in the 1840s. Okay, so what is this Prussian model of education that I am talking about? What did that mean? What did they do? Why did they do it? That's important to understand. And what about it did grasp Mann's attention that he wanted to bring it and successfully institute it here where we live? The Prussian system of education. Prussia was known for their great military might, strength, and capabilities, and they completely restructured their education system on purpose, taking it from what was formerly a classical education system to a compulsory state-run system that was engineered from its inception to create a loyal, obedient citizen and soldier for the state, and removing critical thinking and faith-led practices influenced primarily from the family. See a pattern here? Why, I do. He admired how it created social order and economic productivity, because by God, that is the most important thing a nation can be, right? An import of the model is the basis for America's first public school systems, starting in the state of Massachusetts. So what were the traits that the Prussian system idealized? They idealized compulsory attendance. It was not an option to not attend school. Say your family had a farm or a business, and sometimes the children needed to help out with things, which was a common practice with many, many families back in the day. Go read thyself the Laura Ingalls Wilder books about both her family and then Farmer Boy about Almanzo's family. And you will see this played out implicitly throughout their stories. Standardized curriculum controlled by the state, age-based grade levels, the first time this had ever happened in the world, as in ever, is separating children by their age to be taught. Children prior to that had been around all age groups at the same time, sometimes with their families and other adults. Interesting concept of transition here. Teacher training for normal schools to ensure obedience by both the teachers and the students to the state's ideals. Teachers were discouraged from leaning on their faith, their former systems of education that they were raised in, and they were forced to be compliant. See how that word keeps coming up here? Compliance. Priority was placed on punctuality, obedience, and passive information retention. This is a major change on what education focused on from the system prior to this. Why does this matter to us? What was the system that was implemented here in the great old United States of America and England and the rest of the world almost systemically? Mann's reforms were not neutral. They were driven by a worldview system designed to displace faith and family authority by design and replace it again with state-defined values. The ripple effects are currently everywhere. They're how all schools are structured in the public education system. They're exactly how teachers are trained. Teachers have been raised now generationally, as were we, in this same system, and then educated on how to process children in the exact same system that we have been raised in. And the effects of how faith is seen and separated as private, and private family faith, you can believe what you want to, but don't bring it in public. Public secular values are seen as driving the public good. And there has been a fundamental transition from how faith is viewed and compartmentalized as compared to the public good, the public out-facing values and systems and policies that have effectively driven and changed our culture to be what it is today. And here's the deal. Even homeschoolers or families with their kids in very good private schools are currently affected by this. Not by choice, hear me out, moms and dads, because the entire cultural water we swim in has been tainted by man's imported ideology. It affects us all in all aspects of life. And I hear it right now. There's so many of you getting mad at me right now through either your earphones or the screen because you're saying, I'm not part of that system. I have purposefully removed myself and our children. We don't practice these things. I am not getting on you. I'm not pointing the finger at you, and I am not blaming you. I am trying to simply raise awareness and hear me out. We are all affected by this in different ways because it is pervasive and it goes much further than just sticking your kids in public school. Again, hear me out. This is important, mom and dad. The best models can still carry pieces of a broken system. And I am talking about how we homeschool our kids, how private schools are structured. Many homeschoolers can still follow a rigid system of grade levels and testing as their primary metrics. Why? Because that's how we were raised. That's what we, in the back of our heads, way down deep, if you're raised in this, and have not been around or immersed in anything else, why would we not understandably fall back on this as our baseline of how we do things even with our own children, while at the same time cognitively wanting them to turn out very, very differently? Churches, many churches often follow secular views, secular calendars, and how they practice and the things that they edify. Halloween, anyone? And cultural values all the time invade the church through many different means, from what they allow in, the media they allow in, the speakers and preachers that they allow in, including the people who you release your children to on a weekly basis. Media has been allowed to disciple more than your family or your faith in many families. Screen time is at epidemic levels. And whether you have a screen or not, your kids' friends sometimes do. Okay. And we may be accidentally and or unintentionally enforcing the system that we are fleeing from. Take a breath. There's hope. I'm not going to leave you hanging and in the misery pit, okay? I'm not intending to leave everyone, including myself, on the struggle bus, because that would be depressing, would it not? I'm raising awareness so that we can have understanding, because without understanding, we can do nothing about it, and the system is perpetuated. Do we want to perpetuate this? I don't, and I don't think you do either. So come along. We're still going here. A lot of parents focus on tests and metrics instead of outcomes and character. We want to build the soul and have a reasoning adult at the end of it, not a puffed up child, okay? Too often, systems of education, sometimes homeschool, many times even private schools, even Christian schools, mom and dads, promise you they're on the same boat. They underfocus on worldview, thinking that a system that is more or less neutral does have your best interest in mind. Plus, social, friend time, activities, sports, cultural events, all of these things can and do influence our children. Too many kids are getting their beliefs from social media and friends instead of home. The great pastor Vodi Bakum, and he's not great because he's a great man. He's great because he proclaims God and Scripture, okay? If you've not listened to Vodi Bakum, go check out a Vodi Bakum sermon. He is one of my favorite theologians walking around today. Good stuff. He proclaims, this is a quote, discipleship is happening every day. It just depends on who's doing the discipling, man, right? So, discipleship. I want us to take this entire worldview system in mind because we want our families to have a distinctive worldview, not a fear-based worldview, and also not a reactive worldview. But sometimes parents like you and myself, because I had to do this, our home has to do this, we continually do these things. We're not stuck. We're not perfect. We have not achieved whatever. We're on the path with you. And that is the entire reason I'm bringing this information to you, because I had to learn it and go through it myself. And I know there's families out there who, like us, are not satisfied with the way things are. We want you to move people like us from passive parenting to very proactive parenting. We want the identity to move from fragmented and parsed out and sectioned off to immersion in integrating faith into all aspects of life. If you've listened to me for a minute, you can see that this theme runs through everything that we talk about together. Okay? We want absorption over instruction. Instruction is generally surface level to be parroted back, and then it is over. It does not become part of a child except through years and years of incessant surface level instruction, which produces not much. What I'm talking about is absorption, and there's only one way to get there. It's the way that we used to do things for thousands of years before compulsory education raised its ugly and insidious head. Okay? There's a classical phrase, multum non multa. It means much instead of many. This requires explanation. So, I was raised in public school. Can you tell? Probably yes. Probably emphatic yes. Because we were raised in public school with subject after subject after subject and class after class, and there was a bell or a buzzer that rang in between, and we were all programmed to listen, to comply, to sit down and be quiet, to listen to whatever the teacher is telling us and not question them, because that is wrong. I actually got kicked out of a class permanently because I did question a teacher. That's very interesting. A story for another time, not today, but a fun story nonetheless for you to chew on and think about. And none of these classes are inherently or necessarily connected in any way, shape, or form. So your child, you probably were, ran from class to class to class, and it's like ripping a Band-Aid off every 50 minutes of a kid's life and making them transition mentally to something entirely different than, and it's jarring and it's rigid and it just doesn't make sense in how God created us to be. And so multum non multa, the much not many model, means instead of sticking a child in all these different Surely interesting? No, sometimes no. Completely disassociated classes that they must perform and regurgitate simple information to move on to the next thing, because they'll never talk about again what they just learned. It's immersion in the fundamentals of what makes us human, in the understanding of the basics on language and mathematics and reasoning and story and mythology, which all connects us with humans. Science is in there, absolute yes, but it's not this weird disassociated model of science. It's a it's a total integration with everything a child is doing. And instead of doing all these different things, you go deep and you expect at the end of it mastery. And if a child doesn't master in your timeline, that's okay, because it's the child that requires the mastery, not me. And when a child masters a subject, they own it. And it is with them the rest of their lives. This is a picture. And yes, we will dive into classical education at a later date, not today, but I'm giving you a small picture of the ethos, the philosophy, and the underlying drive and agenda of what classical education intends as compared to modern, state-driven, progressive Prussian education. Interesting. I mean, come on, does your kid know more about Minecraft than Moses, moms and dads? Does he? Moses is important. He wrote a lot of the Bible. What's forming their thinking? Is it your living room or your For You page, which I assume comes from this thing called TikTok? I don't know. So what can we do about it? Pedal to the metal time and a picture of hope for moms and dads. We don't want to run from culture. May it never be. I do not want that for you, okay? What we do want to do is we want to raise and form future adults to face culture and effectively engage it with and from their faith first, and then their mind. We have a God that says, come and reason with me. God does not ignore the intellect. He created it. He created us to be an intelligent and intellectual, effective people, not people that hide from the culture that surrounds us. I want us to be intentional. We talked about, instead of being passive and ineffective parents, which none of us actually intend to be, but sometimes through the way we were raised, we become that because our focus has been fractured through our own education. This is a big, hard reset for not just our kids, but moms, dads, homes, families, cultures, communities, right? That is actually what we're trying to do here. So I am encouraging you and giving you permission to rebuild and restructure the rhythms of your home. If you have not fully listened to episode 4, I go pretty hard on what this looks like, okay? A home based on faith and the Bible, all right? I want scripture to be central in our life, not just in random and rare lessons that may or may not happen once a week. I don't want you to be helicopter parents raising bubble children, because that is anathema to everything that we are talking about here and everything that I am hopefully and prayerfully encouraging you to move towards. Because I want you to leave not just with protection, but with vision, clear vision that will take your family to a better place. Because I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to encourage you and call you to lead your family, because this is the position God has placed you in. And with God, we can do these things. These are not impossible. They're not for the experts, mom and dad, because the experts have a particular agenda that is probably not your agenda. So don't get beaten down into thinking that you need to comply with society just to make your family fit and go along to get along. That's predator language, by the way. We don't talk that way amongst us. Be encouraged, okay? Knowledge is power. There was a kid show that used to say that all the time. Knowledge is power. But it's true. Knowledge is power. It gives us understanding. Is knowledge the end, though? No, because if the knowledge that we have doesn't influence and affect us in a particular way to give us the ability to enact with our culture and do something about it, knowledge is powerless. Okay. And I don't want you to be powerless moms and dads. I want to empower you to take back your faith, your home, and your family in the best way possible. All right. Be with me. Join me here. Okay. And let's get to the join me statement. If this episode has resonated with you and helped in any way, and I really hope it has, and if it hasn't, let me know. I would love you to subscribe to the Family Readiness Project email list, because it's not just an email list. When you subscribe, I send you the Family Crisis Survival Guide. And I want to hear from you. This is really important right now. What I'm trying to do is engage with my people. And if you're listening to this, you're my people. Your home is a home that I want to succeed and do very well. I'm imploring you and asking you, I need your help, okay? Please, I invite you to subscribe. Absolutely, yes. Sign up for the Family Crisis Survival Guide. That's very important, and it is robust and growing all the time. I worked really hard on that. It's about a 12-page survival guide that you can print off and use in your home immediately today to go through all kinds of different thought processes and engage in conversation with your spouse and your kids. All right. I want to hear from you. So please, you can email me directly at support@familyreadinessproject.com. I would love to hear from you. I am so excited every time I get an email from somebody in this audience, because you guys are awesome. Let me know if you don't like what I'm saying or if you disagree with me. That's good too, because I'm learning all the time. Let me know if you have some other things and inputs that I can learn from and I can also then pass back on to this audience, because we are all doing this together, right? One more thing, and this is a big one. Invite another parent who is like you. Invite another mom and dad who is not happy with the way things are and want to make a difference with their children, their home, and future generations. I appreciate you. I am so glad and thankful you're here. This is the first month of this podcast, and it's actually growing. I'm not doing leaps and bounds and crazy viral stuff, but it's pretty doggone exciting to me to see how many people are downloading on their phones or watching our content on YouTube or reading the articles on the website. And yes, I write articles. I take a long time. Each one's got a ton of work and research and information in it. And it just fires me up when I see feedback from moms and dads, because somebody out there is hearing me, somebody who needs the information that I desperately needed a few years ago and am now able to pass on. And so about me a little bit at the end of this, and this is a weird place to put it, but I'm a protector first, okay? I'm kind of hammering on some fundamentals of education and home life and home practices, because that is a baseline that I need more people to engage with and adopt in their home, even before I start talking about the big heavy-handed topics of personal protection, family protection, online protection. And I've already talked about a bunch of that, okay? And yes, I'm developing the digital discernment course for you right now. I'm working hard on it today and the rest of this week and next week so that we can launch the first section of the course. All right. I invite you to sign up for it. Okay, the digital discernment course is going to be a free and robust resource for moms and dads to help navigate the threats and the influence of the digital world that is already taking place on your kids and your homes. If you want to sign up and receive the workbooks and the PDFs that I'm developing for it, please sign up. There's a link in wherever you're watching this from right now. And when those forms and courses come out, I will send you gratis for free all the forms that you need to go through the classes with me while we are learning these things together. Okay? So thank you. God bless you. Take charge of your family. Be encouraged, not depressed. Be proactive, not reactive. And take a stand. You guys are amazing. Thank you.